Hey guys, today's math lesson is lesson 95. It's on page 493 of your math book. And today we are learning how to reduce rates before multiplying. And we've learned a little bit about this during lesson 70. So if you remember, if you have, and I can write it over here to the side, but if you have 3/4 times 2/5 times 5/6, you can pair up some of these numbers and reduce them before you actually multiply. So first off, I know that 2 and 4 can pair up, and the factor that goes into 2 and 4 is 2. So 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. And then I know I can pair up these 5s, and the greatest factor that goes into 5 is of course 5. So 5 divided by 5 gives me 1, and 5 divided by 5 gives me 1. Now I'm not done though. I can also pair up 3 and 6. Even though they're not close together, they are still diagonally separate. So a factor that goes into 3 and 6 is 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2, which is how I got these numbers right here. Now I can multiply my new numbers. So 1 times 1 times 1 gives me 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And then I keep my fraction line in between. So my answer is 1/4. And that's a little bit simpler than trying to multiply 3 times 2 times 5, and then 4 times 5 times 6, and then reduce that larger fraction. Now, if this is totally crazy to you and it doesn't make sense, please refer back to lesson 70, because you were taught how to do this in lesson 70. So use your notes in your book if this just does not make any sense to you. Now, if this does make sense to you, then stay tuned, because we are doing the exact same thing, but except we are adding in units of measure this time, which sounds difficult, but it's really not. So hint, the units can reduce and cancel out just like numbers can. Okay, so for example, right here, if I had 4 miles over 1 hour, and all of this would be given to you right here, times 2 hours over 1. Well, do you see another word that says miles other than right here? If you said no, then you're correct. But you do see the word hour mentioned twice, which means that they can cancel each other out because they are diagonally opposite of each other. So that means that the units cancel out, not the numbers, just the units, the labels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still multiply my numbers. So 4 times 2 gives me 8. And the only label that I have left on top here is miles, because hours has been crossed out. So I'm going to write miles beside 8. Then I'm going to do the bottom numbers. 1 times 1 gives me 1. But I don't have a label on the bottom because hours was canceled out. So that means that I can either write my answer like this, or I can just go ahead and get rid of that 1 and write it as 8 miles. And that's my answer, and it's that simple. So, like I said, I am doing the same thing with the labels as I did the numbers up here in lesson 70. So let's do another example together. So let's do multiply 55 miles per hour by 6 hours. So I can use this to set it up for you before I show you all the work. So 55 miles, those go together because it's mentioned as the label. 55 miles per hour. So that means that per is a division line. So underneath 55 miles, I'm going to write 1 hour. Because 55 miles per hour. And it tells me to multiply that by 6 hours. So I'm going to write 6 hours up here because there's nothing that goes with the 6 hours. And just for argument's sake, just so it doesn't look funny, I'm just going to put a 1 down here just as a placeholder since it's a fraction. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out my units that are diagonally opposite of each other. So I have 2 hours that's written. So I'm going to cross both of those hours out. I only have miles that's mentioned 1 time. So I'm going to leave that. And then I'm going to multiply 55 times 6 and then 1 times 1. Okay, which I can show you that. So 55 times 6 gave me 330. And I left miles because miles was not canceled out because there was not another miles down here. 1 times 1 is 1. And there is no unit beside the 1 because hours did cancel out. So then I can get rid of that 1 because I don't need it. So I would just write my answer as 330 miles. Okay, hopefully that came a little easy to you. So the next examples. This one I had already done. So multiply 5 feet by 12 inches per foot. Okay, so let me show you how to set this up, and then I will show you the work here. So 5 feet, okay, and I don't have anything underneath the 5 feet. So I'm just going to put a 1 as a placeholder there with no unit. Okay, and it tells me to multiply that by 12 inches per foot. So remember, that little line means per, and I have 1 foot down here. Okay, so that's the setup. So now I need to go ahead and cancel out some of my units that are the same. So feet and foot are the same. So I'm going to cancel those out. I don't have another inches anywhere in the problem, so I'm going to leave that inch there. Okay, so then after I've done that, this is the same setup that I just wrote. 5 times 12 gives me 60, and then my inches are going to stay there because they did not cancel out with anything. 1 times 1 gives me 1, but I don't need that 1, so I'm just going to write my answer as 60 inches. And here's a little hint for you. Look for the word per. In this example, per means that 12 inches will be on top of 1 foot, okay? Because that line per means a division line. Okay, so let's do the next one together. And I miss having y'all conversate with me when we do these math problems. So we are going to multiply 2.3 meters. Okay, so I'm going to write 2.3 meters. And it doesn't say per with 2.3 meters. So I'm just going to put a 1 underneath it as a placeholder. So then it wants me to multiply that by 100 centimeters per, so there's that per line right there, per meter. So I'm going to put 1 meter. Now I'm going to cancel out the labels that are the same. So I have meters and meter that are the same. I don't have another centimeter, so I'm going to leave my centimeters. So I'm going to multiply 2.3 times 100. And if you just take my word for it, and you can remember the shortcut that I taught you in lesson 94, actually, there's 2 zeros and 100, which means I'm going to move that decimal over 2 times to the right. So 2.3 times 100 gives me 230 centimeters. And then 1 times 1 gives me 1, but I don't need that 1, so I'm just going to write my answer as 230 centimeters. Okay, so the next one, multiply 18 teachers. Okay, so I'm going to write 18 teachers. Now there is no per attached to 18 teachers, so I'm going to just write that over 1 as a placeholder. So it tells me to multiply 18 teachers by 29 students and then there's that word per that means a line, a division line, per teacher. So 1 teacher goes beneath it. Now believe it or not, teacher and students are still labels. So I have teachers that is mentioned 2 times, so I'm going to get rid of teachers. And students is only mentioned 1 time, so I'm going to leave that as my label. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply 18 times 29. And I don't know that off the top of my head, so I'm just going to do a quick math problem right here. Okay, and I got 522 students. Okay, so I'm going to just shorten that. And then 1 times 1 gives me 1. But I don't need that 1, remember, so I can just write my answer as 522 students. Okay, the next problem, how far will the train travel in 6 hours at 45 miles per hour? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put 6 hours, and there's no per attached to the 6 hours. So I'm just going to put that over 1, and then I'm going to multiply that by 45 miles per hour. So per 1 hour. Okay, so hours is mentioned 2 times, so I'm going to cross those out. Miles is not mentioned at all, so then I'm going to leave miles, and I'm going to multiply 6 times 45, which gives me 270 miles, and then 1 times 1 is 1, but I don't need that. I can cross that out. So my answer is 270 miles. So that means that the train can go 270 miles within 6 hours if it is going at this speed. And that will conclude lesson 95. So if you have any questions, please let me know.